Welcome back to my channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about Black women in policy, immigration, economics, education, and political shifts since 2008. We're going to unmask this, okay? And the reason we need to unmask it, ladies, this is not a vibes conversation. This is a policy audit from 2008 to now. So this is not for everyone. This is for the Black American women who want to continue to get a better idea of what's going on with you, with us, so that we can continue to progress, align who we need to align with politically, gain the power in the areas that we should continue to gain power in, and really lay it out. I want to lay out so that you can make better informed decisions for you and your household. Okay. And I like to just try to make this, I put this out there, at the beginning of my presentation. This is definitely specific to Black women. However, anyone else, you're definitely open to, receive this information, understand it, and hopefully contribute to the progress of Black women and our society, because our contribution to the society of our own community contributes to the greater American society. So all Americans should, see this as a way to wrap your arms around Black women so that we can get back on track. This will expose some things I already knew. I'm not here to say that I'm a Republican or conservative or Democrat or liberals. I stopped thinking like that a long time ago because I felt both sides weren't doing things in a way that supported uh, my community, but it was also rejecting other American communities. And I've seen it, the entire time while I was in my career, while I was young. So this is to focus on 2008 because during that era, I was working during that time, and I was in more of a wealthier area as far as where I was working. But I think it's very important to look at that time frame. Now we're going to jump into different eras so that we can understand maybe crime and a little bit of politics. I spoke about crime and stuff in my previous presentation. So this one is not going to be specifically crime focused. I'm going to try to focus more on policies so we can understand the layout, understand what's been going on to hinder the progress of Black American women in this country. Okay. So, since the Great Recession, America ran a live experiment on immigration rules, bank bailouts, student finance, healthcare, crime reform, and higher education funding. Black women showed up as workers, voters, caregivers, founders, and homeowners without getting proportional, I'm sorry, getting tongue tied, returns. So all of that work, all of what you did to contribute and the ways you showed up should never be denied. You've been showing up since I want to say 1867, but really 1630s. You've been here, you've been doing everything. Like I said, we have history even beyond America that we've already been doing things, but now we need the ones that's here, us as American women that's here, need to reshape, restructure ourselves, heal ourselves, get back on the right track so that we can continue to contribute to not only our community, our children, but way past that. And when I mean community, I'm really talking about the community of women, how we want to contribute or work with other communities, allyship. But this is just to merely show you, give you paint a picture of what's going on and why we cannot be emotionally charged. Why that healing in my last presentation is so important, so that you're not emotionally charged. You don't feel an emotion tied to some morals or to some religious belief, when you have to also move with knowledge. You have to move with knowledge. Knowledge is very important, right? It's very, very important, so that you're better informed, better educated about the decisions you're going to make, because you make choices. Life is literally about choices that you make, decisions that you make on those choices. Some are good, some are bad, some are hard, some are easy. But this will help to reveal kind of why we've been possibly making choices that are more emotionally charged versus what's really the best for us. So I'm here to kind of paint that picture out for us. Now, Pew Research shows Black women vote at the highest rates among women, and the Department of Labor reports our labor force participation tops other groups of women. Yet, the Fed survey of consumer finances still places Black families' median wealth far below white counterparts. Today, I'm laying out how Democrats and Republicans set those conditions. Obama's crises playbook, Trump's enforcement and HBCU funding, Biden's immigration expansions and partial student debt relief attempts, plus California. And I'm just, I know predominantly Black people are in more southern states and East Coast states, but history has shown that a lot of those people that came from those states migrated to the West. So because I am in the West, I just wanted to plug in California. But there's definitely other states that this would, probably align with. But I'm here to just put a case study for California. I love my state. I'm not here to, down it or demean it. But as someone who's been born and raised here all my life, some of these policies as a young girl growing up, I've seen the drastic changes. Trust me, we've seen the drastic changes. But when voices like mine are being shut up or silenced, we don't get to the meat and potatoes of it, where we can make changes to policies, right? So California's sanctuary posture under Governor Newsom, we're going to look kind of at that. We will follow the receipts. Okay, we're about those receipts. I'm not here to just give you, just my opinion, but I'm giving you also things that can help back up my opinion. Now, what changed in law or budget? And ask only questions that matter. Did it work for Black women? So Pew, US, DOL, Federal Reserve, SCF, we're going to kind of dig into this so we can see how we can continue to progress and contribute to the greater society. All right, let's go to the next slide here. Now, why this matters. The precedent matters from the crack era to the 2008 crash. And like, again, I'm just pulling certain things that I noticed or had a hypothesis about. And I just want to present those things. And they're mostly related to our community, but I just want to present it in a way that you can be a little bit more informed and understand why patterns and practices, political strategies and moves are very important. And you can't just shoo it away. You can't just go out voting just because you're afraid of maybe Republicans having racists within their camp, right? And I'm with you on that. That's why I'm not fully crossing over to that land, because I think it needs to be cleaned up on that side. This is why they're going to continue to struggle with getting a lot of Americans on that side, even though they won. But to truly win or continue to win, you need to ensure that all or most Americans are understanding stuff, the data or information enough without having to lie about it, without having to, make up stuff or get emotionally charged and mad because somebody Black did something to you. You can't really, lead your life like that, right? So let's talk a little bit about from the crack era to the 2008 crash. Now, before we judge modern policy, remember the playbook that shaped it. Now, in the late 1970s through the 1990s, we're going to focus there. What was going on? The crack epidemic, okay, rising violence, pimp culture. We had a lot of black exploitation films. Pimp culture was starting to be produced in the media or pushed out in the media. And the commercialization of gangster rap created a moral panic, a real harm. We cannot deny it, ladies. The 1994 crime bill, backed by many big city mayors at the time, poured money into police and prisons and stifled sentencing. For many black women living through drive-bys and intimate partner violence, safer streets felt urgent. For many black men, mass incarceration followed. That tension, safety versus overpunishment, still haunts policy. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The tension is safety versus overpunishment. So you're dealing with two things here. If they were cleaning up the streets is one thing, but where is the continued safety for your community, black women? Where is the continued safety? So we more than likely gave up our safety to continue to focus on the overpunishment of people who were more than likely, and I'm not saying every, again, this is not for everyone. This is for women, black women who have at least, the intelligence enough to understand the information. Maybe you, like me, have urges to go and research and do those things. So this is not for all of us, right? So I'm not going to be, I'm going to try very hard not to try to, I'm going to be nice here, try to make this sugar coated, right? I just want to speak to what I see, what I'm going to go on. So fast forward, by 2008, the housing market implodes. So that was something big that happened during that time, right? Now, black families overrepresented in subprime are exposed. The policy question was simple. Will recovery target the households who lost the most? So think about that, black women. 1970s to 1990s, you had these particular events that affected our community. I don't like to blame white people or white supremacists on every little thing. I don't I don't go for the puppet master where a puppet master is controlling you, your mind, your mentality. I don't go for that type of stuff. I understand science enough when someone is manipulating you or, but we know that happens on the average, throughout the average person, especially in today's climate. Sometimes it seems there's black people who are just literally trying to get over on other black people. You have black people who are speaking up about, yo, why are gangs banging on us? And not the other people. Where are you? Will they stand with us? But that shows how even education started to decrease with the counterparts, right? Now, all these things that I talked about, crack epidemic, rising violence, pimp culture, gangster rap, contribute to the psyche of black people. And then you had things, get better because that crime bill, even though again the overpunishment was happening, you can find, archive videos, old documentaries showing you that era because when crack first started, they weren't locking people up, ladies. They weren't locking you up. I've seen documentaries where people were pretty much experiencing what we do today, like no cash bail, quote unquote, right? Where they were just you may got in trouble for selling crack or using crack, but you weren't really going to jail too much like that or staying in jail for long, long sentences. What changed is when the violence started to happen. When unfortunately our counterparts decided, well, we want to stop being about community and allow outside influences, whether it was the FBI, CIA, or anybody else that came in, again, during that late 70s era, if we're already promoting pimp culture, right, through the media and we're, allowing it, where we're okay with it, um, just because we want to be movie stars and stuff. And again, I'm not trying to put this on everybody. I can I also have the mindset to understand the times and what was actually going on, but I'm here to focus on internal issues, right? So I'm not here to blame people, but I will bring up systemic changes, and that's why we're talking about policy. Okay, so because of that violence that started to rise, I remember, I think, one of the documentaries where people, they wanted their streets cleaned up, right? So crime bill, before that crime bill, the violence was rising. People was just being dead and shot and killed, and then you got gangs warring against each other. You got all that stuff going, and I'll say, mind you, crack wasn't just synonymous with the black community. It was definitely spreading through white communities, Hispanic community. It was spreading during that time. You had young kids um, on crack. Okay, so this is what was going on that we can go to and even visually see and not be so emotionally charged about it, but think about it as, why am I going to get mad because someone dropped off some crack? When I know there's people who are upstanding and have integrity will be like, yo, that needs to go, or needles all over the ground, allowing that stuff to just, fill your communities up. Something's wrong with that. Or people, allowing that to happen and you're voting for them, right? So that's something that I want you to just keep a mind of, right? Just keep on, and why these policies and these changes during those times affected Black women, you know. Um, so when we're talking about the 2008 or 2010 era and looking at these crime bills, okay, let's go into, and I'll just go to the next one because this is just, the blind spots that I brought up. The foreclosure shock and who got saved. So things started to get better after, that crime bill hit. And I would say both Republicans and Democrats, they came together on that at that time. That was a smart thing to do. But yeah, there was over sentencing in areas that maybe other people weren't getting the same sentences. And that's where Black people unfortunately said, oh, well, don't lock up our people more or whatever, or sentence them more. But not realizing some of those people were very violent, very, very violent. So the push should have been, we need to focus on all crime, you know. But then we got to look at, if those people who are not in the Black community were doing crack and committing violent crimes, and they were in other people's communities, we have to see it as, well, was that actually affecting us, right? We want to make sure, if you're going to lock up, young Charles over here and put him in jail and give him 10 years for a violent crime, and you're going to lock up Tyrone over here in our community for a similar violent crime, that's what the Black community was trying to get at, and you should have stayed on, versus now it became a bigger issue where we begin to protect crime and criminals, and it started to go through generations. And let's go to the 2008 2010 crash that happened. Now, from 2005 to 2009, Black household median wealth fell 53%. Okay, it was falling. I remember growing up, my parents. I remember I grew up middle class, and I remember the Black people around me. They were all, somewhat. You could say we were all pretty much educated. Had two-parent homes. My parents were still pretty young, when I think about it. They were still probably under 30 years old. And they were starting to get into houses, get into all that stuff. So, keeping us in school and sports and all that stuff. I had some of the best teachers starting out. So I can say how I think and how I talk today is, because of them. But when we go to 2005 and 2009, what was happening during that time, right? A crash occurred where the Black household median wealth fell to 53%. That's Pew Research. Subprime and predatory loan steering hit black women hard, especially first time buyers and single heads of households, because we got to understand coming out of that crack era and then, the aftermath of some of that, because now you still got some of those people still locked up, right? But coming out of that, this is where you can see black women still never stopped being entrepreneurs and home buyers, heads of households, because you were disciplined enough to stay in school and get an education. And that's why some things increased for you, or you got better job opportunities because of certain policies, right? Now, Washington's rescue prioritized banks and balance sheets at that time. So, TARP and stress tests, and macro stabilization via the Fed. Okay. So, when I hear no uh, bailouts for student loans, I'm like, dang, but you bailed out the banks. Y'all allowed the banks to be bailed out, but not the American students that are going to school and, barely was coming out of school, still young, parents signing, loans for them because you're 18, you're 18 or 19, or some of you were 17 coming out of high school, and your parents didn't have the money to afford you the tuition. So you had to take out student loans during that time, right? But who knew what you were signing? Because your parents probably still wasn't as financially literate as they should have been. They just knew that you needed to go to college, and that was the push. And then especially HBCUs was being pushed, I know, for Black students, right? So there were foreclosure mitigation programs during that time, but nothing proportional to the damage of Black neighborhoods. So there was no real recovery plans. They were out there, but it didn't focus on Black people. So just follow me here. Just follow me. Translation: asset prices recovered faster than families did. Black women who lost homes or equity didn't get an equivalent household TARP. Okay? You lost your homes. I remember my parents, I think it was probably a little bit before 2008, 2009, if I can recall, before that era. But, it was already starting to occur because my parents was starting to buy real estate, and we ended up losing my childhood home. And then, the home my dad is in now is still my childhood home, but it wasn't my childhood home. That was like we moved on to the east side. We moved on up. Now, that choice was to rescue institutions and not households. So, this whole plan was about saving the banks, but forget about the households, forget about the Americans who had to lose out because of what the banks, their decision making, their tactics that screwed over a lot of Americans. Banks are so intertwined with our federal government. It is so crazy. It's insane. And to me, it shouldn't be like that. Now, this explains a lot about the next 15 years of the wealth gap. So today we're dealing with trillions of dollars in a wealth gap. So Black women who are talking about we have $1 trillion in spending power, being a consumer Black women is not the T. It is not it. Being proud of going into other people's businesses in your communities around surrounding your community, whether it's hair, whether it's beauty, nails, makeup, any of those things, going into those communities, to those businesses, affected you, affected the wealth gap. Investing in real estate was one thing, but we didn't invest in anything else. Our parents wasn't teaching us about stocks because they weren't being told about that stuff. Some people knew, but it wasn't a whole lot of us, right? So these are issues that we have to see to fix moving forward, right? So this explains about the next 15 years and your continued oppression through policies. Okay. Now, when 2010 through 2016, again, we have, I believe it was two different presidents during that time. So we're going to look both at Democrats and Republicans so that we have a layout of what they contributed and what they did, right? Again, Republicans are known to have more racist undertones, and that's something they really truly just need to clean up. They need to get rid of those type of people. You have people that are in the middle right now that they're going to continue to lose because they want to hang on to certain ideologies of America or religion. They want to let all these extras um, be the idea of who they are as a human being, right? But you can see they were truly focused on America. Now, am I saying Democrats is not focused on America? No, I'm not, definitely not saying that. But let's look at policies from 2010 to 2016 that showed a pivot from the Democrats to immigration to where we are today, where we see this whole deportation and why Republicans and Democrats have been fighting about this immigration issue. Now, as the financial fire cooled, okay, Democratic priorities moved toward immigration relief. So it didn't stay on, okay, how do we continue to recover households and families? It went to focus on immigration. Now, again, I'm laying it out, but we have to see why would Democrats remove themselves, their party, from focusing on American issues to where homeless is up more than ever, but we're bringing in more immigrants. Some jobs don't even have, they have it's jobs out there, but the talent and the skills aren't there. So what is going on to where, you have to bring in people from other countries who now are so prideful about being underpaid, not really taking advantage of our labor laws here, you know, um, those are things they're dealing with, right? So Democratic priorities move towards immigration relief. What the hell what does that have to do with that housing crash? You have to think about it. In 2012, Obama created the DACA. He created DACA, excuse me, shielding 800,000 dreamers from removal. Think about that. That's 800,000. I believe DACA, they'll say it was underage, right? But they also tried to put in another similar one for the parents of those quote unquote American children who were under DACA. No American children would be under DACA if you were an American child. So why would the Democrats even create something like that? A Dreamers, right? Again, I'm not putting down immigrants or anything like that. This is here for Black women to understand the political moves so you can be more educated. And you can't be out here emotional or feeling that you can have empathy and sympathy for people, but you not focusing on you um, brought stuff like this. Okay, voting brought stuff like this. Now, Department of Homeland Security also piloted humanitarian and prosecutorial discretion frameworks. Simultaneously, the Parent Plus credit tightening in 2011 inadvertently kneecapped HBCU enrollments for a period, hitting Black families' college pathways. Throughout the Obama years, Black unemployment averaged far from the national rate, EPI, and Black homeownership never fully recovered. So you see again, 2010 to 2016, what did the Democrats do? They bailed out those banks and then they started to pivot towards immigration relief. And then you start to see a flood of immigrants coming into this country more than ever now, right? More than ever. Don't play with yourselves. I've seen it, but more than ever, they were starting to come in, right? college wasn't even their focus anymore for Black people, even though HBCUs have been around for since almost the inception of this country. So when we're looking at that, we have to understand what was the Democrats on during that time. What was Obama on? Why this is, you can say this is why he was getting critiqued by Black people, but I don't think Black people even still understood what was going on. But we're gonna understand today, right? Now, when we look at that, the net is not immigrants versus Black people. So I don't want to paint that picture, because again, I can't blame immigrants for being told certain things. I can only blame whoever, which party, uh, sent propaganda or media to them. That's really what was happening. If you were observing, Biden's last presidency, all these people coming in caravans, like who's getting the word and just coming over? And they were telling you, people were telling them to come over here. So who's getting the word, right? Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. So them people had to travel from all over the world because they wanted to get into America before it closed. That was crazy. That should have been a red flag to Black women at that time. And still. Now, the net is political capacity was spent on immigration architecture, while Black wealth repair never got its own Manhattan Project scale push. So some of these Democrats, just like people who may be racist in the Republican side, said, we're not even going to focus on Americans who are Black, who help with the building of this country. Now, yeah, there's times you were under duress, you were forced, right? But there's also times you weren't as forced, but those policies was there, but you still contributed to this country. Okay? So we have to think about that, ladies. Think about that 2010 and 2016 era. And again, I'm just here to lay it all out for you so you can make better informed decisions in your voting and your politics. Now, again, I said I'm from California, and I'm just using this as a case study. Now, sanctuary cities became some type of thing, right? California, I don't know if we led on that, but I just know we are one of the states. We're a state, sanctuary state, okay? Not even just cities, a state, okay? So let's look at 2017 through to 2025. Sanctuary being used as governing doctrine. Again, nothing about this is immigrant focused, nothing American focused. So when you're seeing Republicans talking about this, fighting this, you have to ask yourself, what the hell is going on? Right? California formalized its sanctuary status in 2017 with SB 54. The state and major cities funded immigrant legal aid, expanded access to publicly funded health care, and built service pipelines for new arrivals. In the same period, LAHSA documented rising Black homelessness. So that started to rise when they said we're going to pivot and focus on the immigrant population, incoming and those who are already here. Black women, caregivers, starkly overrepresented, and state health data continue to show Black maternal mortality at 3 to 4 times the rate of white women. California is rich. Budgets are choices. We are if we became the fourth largest economy, and we've been top 10, you could say top 10 for a while, right? But if we became the fourth, we can't be listening. And again, I'm saying as a Californian, we can't be taking what the government is saying and we have a homeless issue here. That means things aren't being checked. Money is just being spent. We're not focused on the communities that need to be focused on. When immigrant coverage expansions move faster than Black maternal health, so again, Black women, your health became less of an issue over immigrants. Your housing and small business capital bridges. So you're busting your ass, you're opening the business up with your own savings, and that's why you don't have your net worth ain't really growing. That's why your savings can't grow because now money is being put towards people who haven't even been here for a long time. When we're talking about Madam C.J. Walker, that's in 1867. So black women have been entrepreneurs, and still yet today, when we say racism and all those things are going away and people's minds are changing, we have to look at this. We got to say, well, what happened then? Why aren't black women being approved for loans? Why are we still having to bust our asses as Americans and we're losing out with loans for housing? We're still not being treated well in the healthcare system, and you got people who are immigrants coming in, starting to dominate those jobs. Your business capital is down. The signal to black women is unmistakable. This is unmistakable. You're asked to be compassionate while you wait your turn. Not in your country, not in our country. No, no, no. So again, I'm painting the picture through policy how we as black women have been affected, how our houses have been affected, our health, all of this stuff while we continue to provide votes and using those votes to be so compassionate. That's why, if you're going to be religious and all that, let that be your personal choice and don't let that make decisions for you when it comes to the greater society. That's how I see religion. I don't want to hear you talking about what you're going to put in our schools. I don't want to hear you talking about what people need to do, come to God or whatever. That's your belief. And beliefs are never backed up by true facts. Some may be facts, some not, but they're not backed up. We can't go out here just saying, oh, it's definitely God. I remember, gosh, I forgot his name. But he says, it's just using the God gap. You're just trying to fill in anything that happens with the God gap when some things can be explained through science. Again, we come from a lineage, a heritage that use science and spirituality. So this Scientology stuff, all this shit ain't new it shouldn't be new to us. It's their way of interpretation, but it ain't new to the black women. And that's why, we can't be tied to certain religious rhetoric that focuses on males, and our preachers and our pastors aren't talking about this. But they're promoting and supporting political candidates. They be going to the churches. So why don't these pastors and stuff know about this? They into that Bible too damn much and not on what's going on around us. That's really the truth of it, black women. That's really the truth. Okay? So let's go to the next slide here. Now, let's talk about the presidents and their legacies. So Obama and black economics, even though he's not to, focus on black economics alone, right? But Obama, because during his era, policies definitely affected black people. They did. Student loan debt crisis was during his era. Why did it balloon? Why did some of his Parent Plus loan uh, initiative, why did that affect HBCUs? You got to question those things. Why was that happening? Wealth trajectory. Why him supporting banks and then pivoting and supporting immigrants? Why would that happen? Which affected black wealth, black jobs, and just our economics. Small business loans, approval rate. Why was this stuff being affected during when they had the power to ensure success? Why did they become we are the world now? Why are we are the world? Right? Now, let's look at Trump's policies. Let's look at 2017 through 2020. Now, when we look at Trump's first presidency, and we got to understand the issues between Democrats and Republicans, Because Republicans, again, when they let that racist layer, those racist rats in their party and continue to be in their party, it fucked them up. And this is why they can't get black voters. They can't get black voters and educate them properly because you don't have educated people on your side. And then they say the most stupidest things. They don't know. They act like they can't talk correctly professionally when it comes to black people. So this is why they're gonna lose out. They talk to people like Herschel Walker. What's that? It was another black guy running at one time. I forgot his name. But these are the people they uplift. But when it comes to some black person who knows what the hell they're talking about, I don't see it. So that's why I was like, yeah, I'm not about to go over there until that shit is cleaned up. You ain't about to get me over there just having an allegiance, and I'm still being represented by dummies, right? So let's look at what Trump did during his first term. Now, the Trump years mixed hardline immigration enforcement with a major HBCU win. Department of Homeland Security expanded interior enforcement, remain in Mexico. So, excuse me, let me just finish this out. Remain in Mexico, and Title 42 shaped asylum processing rhetoric was often radicalized. So, again, if you were observing, you would have heard when Biden came in saying, I'm not going to turn away a kid. But then when you go look at some of those, those news clips and you see, when immigrants were migrating here, you see how some of the women put their children up. Or I even heard a lady, you got to take my kid. Like what? What? They were definitely coming in areas that weren't the border crossings, that weren't the proper border. They were doing that. It's not a lie. To believe Democrats the whole entire time has to be the most foolish steps you can take when it comes to your political moves, black women. Media, they will play with your emotions. Remember when all those African commercials used to come out back in the day to get you to send them 12 cents for some water or something? It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. And Democrats continue to promote that. Even now, again, I try to stay unbiased. But even now, when I look at the media, when it's immigration, again, Republicans, they're doing a horrible job sometimes of how they're trying to present it. Stick to the fact. You ain't even got, like, they don't even have to lie. They don't even have to lie. They can stand 10 toes knowing what it is and what they've done to try to help. But when they got liars in their camp who just want to lie and just hateful, this is why, your reign sometimes is just once every other 4 years or whenever. This is why. So this was Trump because again during Obama's era, recognize the Republicans were challenging that. They were challenging immigration, but they tried. The media tried to paint the picture that we needed to bring in the world. Then they tried to say that it was the same as slavery and how your people lost their kids when that shit is nothing in the same. It's not the same goddamn thing. You were forced. Your people was. I don't want to say you because we didn't go through slavery, right? But we are the after effects of it. We are the children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren of that, right? If you still or you hopefully you met your great grandparents and all of them, you're an American, right? You came through a long line, hundreds of years, and for you to be here today is very important. You got to take that personal as an American, okay? But them saying that shit during that time, that was disgusting to hear that they were comparing that just to tug at your heartstrings, black women, to tug at your heartstrings to make you think that that was the same. Someone migrating over and using asylum versus people forcefully brought here are two different things. Forced to work. These people ain't coming here forced to work. Now, when they get here, they're getting told, oh, you're going to get this, you get some money, and blah, blah, blah. So they were giving them this thing. And this is where you see the Democrats giving some of these things to them or changing these policies that were more immigrant focused. meaning they just said, fuck the black community, fuck y'all, right? After that crime in Bill area, it was like, fuck y'all. Now, because again, after the 1990s and that crime bill came out, crime started to decrease. It started to, decrease. Things were looking good. And then all of a sudden, I remember in high schools, the young men were starting to want to be gangs. We wanted to have colors now and all that stuff, more than ever, more than ever. In school, not taking it serious. No parents want to show up. That was happening. You got African American named schools from elementaries, middle schools to high school, and they're failing. We didn't pay attention. You got black people mad at Oprah, mad at the wrong people, being manipulated by your counterparts as well to be mad at the wrong people because they don't even understand what's going on. They want something, they want changes, or they want something for black people, but they don't even understand what's going on. They map out what's going on like I'm trying to do for you right here, black woman. So again, Department of Homeland Security expanded interior enforcement. They wanted to focus. So this whole deportation is not something new. This is something that Trump wanted to continue to do. It had he continued an additional 4 years. His mistake, his failure, was allowing his own emotions to make him feel he needed to be in a president during the time, and he wanted to break rules, and that was a bad step. That was the worst thing he could have done. And now when he's trying to still do certain things, it makes it look bad because, dude, you shouldn't have done some of those things. You got to think for yourself. You can't be allowing people around you again in the camp who don't really care about America and the people who was here already. If your racism and stuff is over, you got to care about the people who was already here, and black people specifically. Now, in 2019, the Future Act. So Trump brought through the Future Act that he made $255 million a year permanent for HBCUs and additional tranches, disaster loan relief, capital finance fixes, materially helped HBCUs balance sheets. So it is definitely documented, ladies. Trump invested into HBCUs. I read books about Trump way before I even knew he wanted to be some president. And I think that was back in 2012, 2013. So him being who he was, talking how he was, I already kind of understood that personality. It was funny as hell, I ain't gonna lie. Again, I don't agree with a lot of shit he does, but I know as an American, he's by the things he's done, it's focused on America. And I forgot the one for Obama, but unfortunately, Obama didn't focus on the funds and relief didn't expand. It didn't increase for HBCUs at that time. He during his era, he never did because again, he started to focus on immigration. So he really said fuck blacks HBCUs as well. Now, pre-COVID, because COVID ended up happening, right? Black women's unemployment hit record lows, but there was no targeted black women economic agenda. Of course, it's nothing gonna be specific to us. So, I just because this is focused on black women, um, I'll say black people. But the unemployment was a record low for black women. No federal fix for the capital gap facing black women founders, no major procurement overhaul. So there are still things he could have continued to contribute, but COVID had hit. That was pre-COVID, excuse me. Now, the net. Republicans prove they can deliver structural wins, HBCU dollars, while missing a comprehensive black women economic strategy, or maybe at that time for black people, right? But again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm focusing on black women, and there's specific reasons why I'm focusing on black women here. Not just because I'm one, but Everything leads to why we got to do better, ladies. We have to do better. We're there. We're, you know what I'm saying? We're hanging on that thread, but it's like, yo, we gotta be smart. We can't be emotionally charged so much. We gotta do better. Okay. Now let's look to what happened in Biden's era. So 2021 to 2025, Biden came and he reversed because Trump reversed some policies Obama did, right? So now, to me, is here's a tit for tat going on, which now you guys got a bunch of shit going on, and I don't feel y'all focused enough on Americans, in my opinion. You got too much back and forth. So Biden reversed much of Trump's approach. Asylum access expanded. So now all these people from all over the world, from countries way on the other side of the world, was able to get asylum access expanded, humanitarian parole used widely, and work authorizations scaled. So, not to focus on training. So, when you hear of these new jobs and some of these immigrants that are in high tech or anything like that, and you hear, oh well, there's a talent shortage or a skill shortage. Well, when you look at that, you got to say, well, are our schools focusing on that? Because I believe with Trump's era and him putting money towards the HBCUs, it was to help focus on more STEM-based education initiatives compared to Obama's. So it was already saying, yo, STEM is about to go up. It's about to be up. Let me put the money towards the Americans and the ones who can get into these fields to, reposition themselves for the next level. I'm gonna put this money into these schools, and they need to make sure the curriculum or whatever is focused on that. Now, border encounters hit record lows, driven by hemispheric instability, putting pressure on receiving cities. So, on the domestic side, ARP and COVID relief stabilized incomes. Student debt cancellation would have disproportionately helped Black women borrow, but was narrowed or blocked before partial fixes. So save plan, targeted cancellations, and that's where I feel the Republicans failed. But I think Republicans, again, they weren't looking at it from a perspective that if you want to let it go, what you should have did is say, yo, is this going to be focused on American citizens? We're not looking to provide relief for the policies that focused on immigrants to reward them and give them relief. And we have Black women who've been here for a very, 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 very long time who continue to show that they go to school, they try to do the right thing, and we're not giving them the relief that they need. The PPP loans post audit showed Black owned firms, especially Black women owned, received a tiny share of loans by dollar value. So even then, Republicans during Trump's era, should have looked at that, right? But again, this is still going through your Biden era, 2021, 2025. So the post audits showed Black owned firms, especially Black women owned, because again, you're the top, you're not to say the top entrepreneurs, but you lead in entrepreneurship, especially among women, and you received a tiny share. So people talking about this scamming and all that, legitimate businesses that were ran by Black women weren't getting a lot of PPP loans. So I don't care who's finding clips of random Black women who ended up stealing or other people, like that still doesn't take away from legitimate Black women owned businesses that receive less than 3% of PPP loans. You had the Lakers who got some of that money and then said, oh, well, we're going to return it back. Because, yeah, why the hell does the Lakers need it? Why does that organization need a PPP loan? So even the rollout, sometimes what our government does, the rollout is ridiculous. If you worked in the corporate private world and you know how you have to roll out projects to everybody, communicate, here's phase one, phase two, phase. None of that happens that I can see. I'm like, this is not even a phase. They just like, here, we got the policy and let's roll it out. They don't put no teams together or nothing to roll it out properly. Now, here's the net: immigration re expansion during the Biden era and partial, inconsistent delivery on Black women's economic relief. So, again, we're coming out of the crack era. Things seem to, be chill, right? You got some jobs. Clinton came, and that's why when we talk about welfare queens and all that, rubbish, Black women went to go get jobs more than ever. They said, well, we're not going to wait on our men because some of our men they don't want to go get those jobs. It's not about them being kicked out the home. It's not that opportunities wasn't just allotted for them. Some of them just didn't want to go and do it, so they fell to drinking, being abusive, doing things they didn't want to see. They didn't want to. They pretty much defeated themselves, right? But you had some counterparts who did take advantage, right? But it wasn't a whole of them. But most Black women, or I just say more Black women, seem to have taken it seriously when the opportunity presented itself. Now, why would you turn down that opportunity as a African American in this country, coming from historical policies that affected you and your community? Why would you not take the opportunity to say, man, I got to get up? Why would your counterparts see that as an issue, that you left them or whatever? You didn't. You really didn't. All right, let's move to the next slide. Now, let's talk about the immigration economics. Let's look at what the research says and how this affects you and why you can't be we are the world. You can empathize and sympathize with people, still stand up for people and their rights. But as an American in your country, you can't open your doors for everybody to come in. I'm just, I ain't religion. I'm telling you, you're not about to be rewarded for that. You're not. Now, let's look at it. Economists disagree on magnitudes but agree on the mechanisms. Supply shocks can pressure directly competing cohorts. David Card's Miami, Mario Boatlift. Work found small average impacts. George Borges, excuse me, hopefully I'm not saying his name correctly, but it looks like Boris, and others showed when you tightly match skill and experience, wage effects can be real, especially in low wage niches. For Black women, the picture is twofold. Okay, we have number one, as workers concentrated in care, education support, health support, retail admin sectors where large inflows can affect wages or hours. Number two, as owners, thin margin storefronts face wage competition and higher loss exposure from theft, fencing markets. Distributional reality. The national average impact can be small while your zip code impact is big. So economically, that also affected you getting those loans. If policies are focused on, you know, immigrants that are coming in instead of the Black women who are taking advantage or trying to take advantage of education, economic support, working, because some of those jobs now are filled with immigrants. The education, care, health support, retail admin filled with immigrants. And this is during your Democratic administration periods. So again, just when the Republican side have people who seem that they just have racist undertones, who need to be not in somebody's office, not in nobody's administration, you have to understand that these policies, this affected your economics in your community, loans and stuff. So now you're seeing immigrants from all over having gas stations and food stores, your food codes and Mexican, or I wouldn't say just Mexican because it could be different types of Hispanics, but their grocery stores. We're talking about car shops. Everything that you see around you is controlled by people outside your community versus controlled inside your community. And you're saying, "Oh, I know, we know it," but here's the evidence to back up what's happening. So when you're going to go challenge these things politically, you have the evidence, and you're not just yapping about it like other people in the community. We ain't about to go yap. We're gonna back it up with what's we can literally paint the timeline, the picture of what's happening, did what, contributed to what. We can see that through the policies, through political candidates, what they agreed on. For example, Jasmine Crockett brought up the fact that only two white American candidates, political congressmen, helped to back a bill. So everyone else on the Democratic side didn't care, or they were just bending the knee. Or is it Jasmine and those two are wrong? Or are they looking at it wrong? And the Democrats say, you know what? No, we got to look at this differently. Are they trying to change to be American first now? But what we know is that because they were focused on immigrants, this is why the Democrats should continue to lose until they get it together and say, you know what? We fucked up. So let's go to the next slide. Now, let's look at the HBCU's test of parity. But before I go to that, let's still stay focused on this for a little bit longer, because I just want to say one more thing. I just want to speak to one more thing. Black women are America's fastest growing entrepreneurs, so we know that, right? And that was a report done by American Express in 2019. Yet the Federal Reserve consistently finds higher denial rates and worse terms for Black women-owned firms. So that lets me know instead of focusing on immigrants, they should have focused on these banks and institutions that were continuing to deny or provide better rates to American Black women who wanted to contribute to the society. If I was a Republican, those would be things I would be looking into as well, because you're not going to keep getting votes over there. Meanwhile, immigrant focused small business programs, city grants, revolving funds, technical assistant corridors scaled aggressively in sanctuary metros after 2016. It scaled. So if policy creates more on ramps, there then here, the capital gap widens, regardless of individual hustle. So everything we're contributing, we're busting our ass. Some of you are single moms busting your ass. You're going to school. You're trying to obtain a higher education. They won't give you a break there. All these people that's supposed to be Americans won't give you a break, but they're also not paying attention. That's not anti-immigrant. That's pro-math, people. More gates open for one cohort while another remains waiting at the window. Black women, are you seeing what I'm seeing? And why you should not be so gung ho about immigrants. Dude, I don't care about our counterparts. I don't care about nobody else. I'm telling you why you cannot continue to make these emotional decisions when it comes to immigration policy, because it affected you getting the money you need to grow your corporation, provide jobs stability. Again, if 300,000 Black women left, if let's say during those periods, and they focused on the recovery efforts of Americans, and especially us as Black Americans, since we were affected the most, if they focused on that recovery period, who's to say of the corporations we would have now? I'm a person who was like, yo, I'm gonna compete against Google and all that. You want that competition. That's what America should have wanted to see. Competition from other Americans, and then go out into the world. We already dominant. We're already the number one country in the world. Everyone wants to come here. And it's obvious because of the immigration policy. Everyone wanted to come here. Still do. And now you got some immigrants feeling that, oh, you guys are gonna fail because you guys don't have us. Like, what? No, it's not even that. It's not even the talent or the skill. It's literally because people policies aren't focused on providing training. Again, when you see a $255 million initiative for HBCUs and you don't see it for during the Biden or Obama era, why wouldn't they try to put money into those schools so that the kids can focus on STEM and be competitive? I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing, Black woman. I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing. Now, here's the clearest policy contrast, okay? Let's just focus on HBCUs. Now, if you want a clean policy A/B test, it's HBCU financing. Trump's Future Act in 2019 locked in permanent annual funds. Additional administrative actions cleared some HBCU debt. Okay, I remember going to supposedly one of the first HBCUs, and man, that school, the structure wasn't that great. I left that, and then I went down south. Again, some of the structure wasn't that great. We got to be real. I remember years later where some of the schools were getting flooded and students had to sleep out and sleeping bags and all that stuff because of water everywhere. Like it's a structural problems going on as well, right? Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing? Now, the Democrats historically expanded Pell Grants and research eligibility, and the Biden White House touted multi-year totals for HBCUs during COVID era appropriations. But the big structural win, a guaranteed reoccurring stream, arrived under Republicans. So that was the biggest win. It was under Republicans who took HBCUs seriously. But again, if they're letting the racists of them get involved, you're not going to win over the votes of the Americans who are here and have been here for a long time. Getting Black women over to vote Republican because of what we see would let them continue to win. But when you have nonsense coming out of there, it doesn't give us trust. We can't trust you. We can't trust you run your camp well. And I know what they would say. Oh, well, you trusted Democrats. Yeah, but they weren't being overtly racist. They weren't doing that. What we did miss is the whole immigration issue that just seemed to take over. And now you have the Hispanics matching or about to be over Black people in wealth, and we're talking about trillions. We don't have trillions compared to whites or maybe Asian Americans in this country, but when we're talking about Hispanics and that community being predominantly made up of more immigrants, that should say something is fucking going on. Why is that happening in your country as an American? Since 64% of HBCU students are women, HBCU stability equals Black women pipeline stability in STEM, health, and leadership. So Trump putting that $255 million into the HBCUs, knowing damn well 64% of you are women, that was contributing more to your success as an American here. But what did we do? We let our emotions get involved, right? Again, I'm just laying it out, Black women. Let's look at maternal health policies and student debt and policy sequencing. So Black women carry the heaviest student debt burdens. Okay? Biden's broad cancellation would have helped us the most, but legal defeats shrank relief. The SAVE plan and targeted cancellations help, but the core burden remains Black women. On health, Black maternal mortality is 3 times white women. Some blue states expanded coverage for immigrants quickly while Black maternal programs grew slowly or episodically. Policy sequencing matters. When non citizen coverage expands before robust Black maternal health investments, the message lands wait, Black women, you cannot allow people to charge you up so, emotionally that you're not caring for yourself. You are not going to get an award or reward for that. You're here on this earth right now. Why are you okay with suffering? You are okay with suffering. Everything is showing, pointing to that we are okay with suffering, whether it's crime, whether it's our health, whether it's our economics. We are okay with suffering, is what this is also pointing to us. So we have to look at this to clean it up, ladies. This is why you need to understand when you are voting, why it matters. Crime policy as economics, safety, work, and wealth. So let's look at this, effects of crime. Again, I did a little bit more on the past presentation just to show you how we are affected by crime and how does that affect us with PTSD, depression, sexual violence, physical violence, all that stuff, theft, all that affects us. And it affects us more than anyone else because we seem to like to suffer, but want to be like, oh, we're a powerful Black woman and all that. There's reasons why, but we don't have to suffer like that. We can literally change our how we think about politics today and move forward in a way that we're just like, yo, this is what it's going to be now. We can. We are not relitigating crime vibes. We're talking policy economics. When no cash bail or weak repeat offender consequences cycle the same offender back into neighborhoods, Black women lose work hours, pay for security, relocate, or shutter stores. So it's not about protecting the criminal. And I talked about the silence, the reasons why we were probably silent, of being abandoned, neglected. So now we have people still trying to push a negative independent woman trope on us. And it's like, well, you have to. If you're a little girl and you may be a part of that 60% experience in sexual violence or sexual assault as a little girl, then you're going to grow up and feel like, damn, I can't tell nobody nothing. Police don't trust me. My mama don't trust me. Dad don't trust nobody thinks I'm telling the truth. And I'm 10 years old. So you grow up already knowing that nobody got your fucking back. And this is why you have to go out here and work hard on your own. And people want to still come at you crazy for it when you should be rewarded for it. That is a household balance sheet issue. Conversely, 1990s tough on crime brought down violence. It did. Regardless of how you want to paint it, it did. Every motherfucker was not innocent. Be for real with yourself, ladies. Stop belittling and demeaning yourself and your safety and the safety for your kids. You always been doing well. I wouldn't say like crazy well, but you've been doing well as far as having the discipline, knowing that you needed to go out and figure it out on your own, and you were. And there were policies, depending on the party or the political administration at the time, tried to put create policies that would help continue to get you on board to be who you want to be in America. But when we started to lack in the political arena as far as our knowledge, the education, and we started to become more lackadaisical with that, we are just voting and not knowing that now, why as Democrats, we probably see it. Some of us probably didn't recognize it. So I'm going to say that some of y'all probably just did not see that Democrats literally started to focus on people who are not even Americans and said, fuck your maternal health, fuck your economics, fuck your school, fuck all of that. That's pretty much what was happening. So that is a household balance sheet issue that's going on. Now, when crime was brought down because of that tough on crime bill or that crime bill, it ballooned incarceration with desperate impacts. The Black woman position is consistent: protect survivors, protect storefronts, and fund trauma care without recreating 1994. So we should have said, well, what can we do? And that's where our minds should have came together. Our coalitions should have came together and said, yeah, we're not going to protect any criminals, but what we want to do is make sure that across the board, you guys are going to paint our community as just horrible, and everybody else is doing the same thing. But what we need to do is focus on survivors and protecting people here, our kids. We need to be on the same tip. We didn't have to join up with white racist people or people who don't get it just to be on the same page. We're literally on the same page. But how will we know? How would anyone else know when the loudest of us, the subset of us, seems to want to protect the criminal? We vote for reforms without understanding what the hell we're voting for. And the fact that Democrats put up these things, the cash bail reform, because they put up that stuff, what the hell was they thinking? You got to ask yourself, what the hell was they thinking about? Why are they okay with that? Again, just painting the picture, ladies. Now, let's look at the COVID relief and how stabilized incomes and unequal access became missed opportunities. ARPA checks and enhanced unemployed, excuse me, ARPA checks and enhanced unemployment stopped the bleeding, but PPP and EIDL access reflected existing bank relationships. Black women owned firms, often younger and underbanked, got less by dollar share. School closures hit caregiving hours. Frontline risk was high in health support and retail. We stabilized consumption. We didn't fix capitalization at all, Black women. That's why post pandemic, so many Black women rebuilt with revenue but without the cushion to scale. These things are important. Focusing on gossip, focusing on issues that are going on with our counterparts that have absolutely nothing to do with what's being put out here through policy to affect you doesn't matter. You got to wake up. You cannot allow you getting an education and people who just refuse to do it or have given up on themselves tell you that these things don't matter and keep your mind warped for so long that you couldn't see what was happening right before you. Now, we have the media narratives. I spoke a little bit about that. Who gets the spotlight and who gets the budget? Okay. So since 2008, major newsrooms frame immigrant families as the moral center of the American story. Again, they literally was telling us that it's the same as slavery, kids getting separated from their families, but you didn't migrate here like that. And then you have racist people on the Republican side trying to soften that shit up when they shouldn't be doing that. They should not do that because that says, yo, these are the actual Americans, and this is why we're going to move forward to make sure they're good. But they failed. They failed. They keep failing in those areas. I don't get why they want to continue to be failures. Black mothers, by contrast, were often framed through pathology or resilience tropes. Narrative drives urgency, urgency drives appropriations. When headlines fixate on one constituency, appropriations drift there too. The policy lesson: control your narrative, or someone will spend your budget for you. And that's the issue. We let media tell us to feel sorry and angry about, oh, they're the same as, remember, you guys know what slavery feels like. What you mean? What you mean? No, y'all don't know what it feels like. We don't know what it feels like. Y'all don't know what it feels like. So why are they even bringing that up? Your great grandma coming through Jim Crow, civil rights era, they all know what that feels like, but we don't. And then people double down, triple down, and your counterparts align with them, triple down, and say, oh, you're so angry. What now? Looking at the stuff I'm giving you, Black woman, why wouldn't you be upset? Why wouldn't you be angry? You would think they would be angry too, because through you it affected them, right? But no, they wanted something fresh off the boat. They're even jumping to communities now thinking that's going to save them. Some of them thinking that's going to save them. This is why this is specifically focused for you, Black American women, because we're not going to be playing that game when we have to take things serious moving forward. We're getting older as millennials, so we definitely got to take this serious. Now, before I move on, I want to talk about a little bit more as far as the California again. Okay, and we're going to talk about health, housing, and the opportunity cost. Back to California because it's the national bellwether. The state successfully expanded public coverage to undocumented adults and seniors. Cities stood up migrant welcome centers, ladies, and we watched that shit happen right in front of our eyes. At the same time, Black women's homelessness climbed in LA and the Black maternal health gap persisted. What in the hell is going on? This is not a moral argument, it's a budget reality. Every dollar is a choice. If monitoring, audits, and outcome targets aren't attached to Black women metrics, maternal death reduction, HBCU, CSU throughput, small business capitalization, then compassionate budgets will skip us. So quit voting for people who are even here, who ain't went through the fire. They ain't never been through the fire like you've been through. They probably been through it in their country, but our country became number one, became the best because we all went through that fucking fire together to come out as gold, baby. To come out as gold. Now, let's do a party reality check. Who did what and not who said what? Because one thing we do, Black women, and this is, you can see this in our churches, how we talk to each other in social media. Somebody just got to say something that feels good, and you will just hallelujah it, amen it. You will just say anything as an emotional response. You let some of these political candidates come and play in your faces. They were already playing in our counterparts' faces, but you allow them to play in your face when you are some of the main breadwinners of your home. You can't be allowing that to happen. 2008 to 2025, Democrats were in office. Democrats, excuse me, through 2008 to 2025. DACA, sanctuary alignment in blue states, large scale immigrant services. Trust me, you can see that, especially here in California, all of a sudden. Bail reform in some metros, proposed large HBCU totals, but few permanent structural streams. Student debt relief attempts partially blocked. Maternal health rhetoric outpacing durable funding. Let's look at Republicans from 2008 to 2025. Enforcement first immigration stances. Future Act, permanent HBCU money. Law and order. Focus with weak survivor services funding. Little direct. National scale capital access reform for Black women founders. The bottom line, neither party centered Black women's wealth, safety, and pipeline as a package. Transaction over tribalism is the only rational strategy. Do you understand now, Black women? Do you get it now? What smart voting looks like. I think some of my slides are off, but it's okay. We're still going to go through them. What smart voting looks like. Local to federal. At the local level, target district attorneys who A, prioritize domestic violence, sexual assault charging, B, treat organized retail theft as organized crime, C, pair enforcement with victim housing relocation. So if we focus on those things when we're talking about crime and policy changes on the local level, we don't covet criminals. We don't do none of that anymore. Whatever you used to think, we don't care if it's your sons. We don't care if it's your father. We don't care. What we're not going to do is be harboring them in our community. We're not going to be having them around us. For school boards, require transparent math ELA plans and paid apprenticeships into city IT, utilities, construction management, and health tech. At the state level, demand formula driven Black maternal health and HBCU capital, not one offs. Federally, demand procurement reforms, set asides, and prompt pay, and a capital access guarantee for Black women owned firms. Vote receipts, not rhetoric, Black women. Let's look at the wealth engine. Okay. HBCUs in STEM and procurement. Here's the compound interest play. HBCUs feed STEM and health pipelines. Public procurement feeds cash flow. Apprenticeships feed liftoff for the next cohort. Push for one, multi-year state matching funds to leverage federal HBCU dollars. Two, city procurement corridors that pre-qualify Black women vendors for routine contracts. And again, that's going back to IT, facility maintenance, analytics training. And three, bonding assistance so we can bid bigger work. That's how policy turns into reoccurring revenue. Do you understand, Black women? Do you get it? Now, we've been going into comparing parties, what has been done on both Democrat and Republican side. I'm gonna, post this at the end of this presentation again, so you can find the link because this information is available to you. Again, it's not everybody's not going to understand it. You're going to have your counterparts try to tear it down, but they can't tear down what it is. Again, I just painted out a whole storyline of what's led to today, the economic disempowerment that Black women have been feeling. So the accountability tools Black women can use this year in 2025. Bring your clipboards and not your feelings. I don't care about somebody's feelings coming here and telling me how I should be feeling about this and what we are doing now. Like, girl, look at the wealth that money matters, ma'am. Let's stop playing games. Let's stop being mediocre. If you want to continue to be a mediocre Black woman, Black American woman, please don't join us. Please, just continue to vote how you were voting because you obviously don't care about the factual stuff and understanding what leads to today. When someone is doing that and showing you, you have to take it. You have to be like, man, what the hell is going on? And why? So, what permanent funding streams for HBCUs and Black maternal health have you passed? Bill number, dollar amount, term. That's the accountability. What percent of city state contracts went to Black women owned firms last year by dollars, not vendor count? Write these down, Black women. Show the audit proving immigrant services spending did not reduce citizen services in your district. If answers are mush, they don't get the vote. Power is withholding until deliverables are on paper. And I know some of the people in the Black community were saying that, hey, we need to see deliverables. It's not about just going to them and saying, oh, here's our plan and blah, blah, blah. We need to see it on paper. We need to see the policy changes. Democrats fucked up focusing on immigrants since the Obama era. They fucked up. And we're still rewarding them and other immigrants who aren't even from here, who didn't even come through the line, who ain't really spilt no blood on this land, no tears, who ain't lost children like you lost children outside of gang violence or to gang violence. They ain't experienced none of that. They trying to compare how their children to be separated to fucking how people raped you I ain't gonna say you because again, we didn't go through it, but our great grandparents and great great grandparents did that to them, ripped babies out of them while pregnant, did all this stuff to them. That ain't nothing compared. Why would you even allow it? I would never. I didn't even allow it. Like you got to be out your minds. And they want to play on you being stupid enough, dumb enough, emotional enough that you would allow these policies to go through because you kept voting for them. I know we pride ourselves on this 92% because of what was going on, but sit the hell back and observe really what's going on. Are you going to let the media tell you that ICE is out here just doing the damnedest things? Or are you going to actually look at some of it and take uh, clip by clip and see what the hell's going on, understanding who the hell they just targeted, who the hell they just got? Or are you going to let the media continue to make you feel so bad about immigrants that literally, again, coming into the country and not going through the proper ports is an issue? When you do get caught, okay, you do get caught. And because of the asylum policies that are in place, whether it was Obama or Biden or Trump, because of those were in place, and your judges are saying, well, this doesn't fit asylum. You came all the way from China. What you need asylum for? Y'all the ones who's mass producing for us. Y'all bringing over y'all selling y'all shit over here. How the hell y'all going through asylum? Venezuelan, why y'all didn't stop to the nearest state next to you? South Africans know that. That's why they're focused on kicking people out too. We're not the only country, black women, that are doing this. It does affect you. I'm showing you through this presentation how you allowing certain economic policies uh, and voting for them knowingly or unknowingly, how they are affecting your money, your progress, and you still have to fight. And now people want to tell you you too strong or you too loud because they see somebody, or maybe they ran into an ignorant black woman, and now they want to paint you like that. Or you at the job and they want to be aggressive towards you because they know your ass is in there to work and do your fucking job, and now they got a problem with that. You allow these people to come here and feel empowered to even say, because y'all, we about to kick them out or deport them or recutting certain things off, how, oh, well, you're going to screw your country. How are you letting people who ain't even from here tell you that? And we have evidence, documented proof of why policies help them and how it hurts everyone else. You can't allow, again, for y'all that still want to be with your counterparts, you can't allow them to go around promoting black and brown, and none of them brown people ain't hired you at high levels. They ain't put you on to, dealing with businesses that come to like mowing lawns or whatever they're in. They're not doing that. They overtook some of those healthcare jobs, jobs from teenagers that I feel should be having. Like, are you guys kidding me? Are you really gonna We Are the World and bow down to people that ain't even fucking been here? I'm just painting a picture, black woman. I'm just painting a picture. So we need to build a political strategy. We must develop that. America First inclusion. It must be. Number two, independent political power. Understand what a PAC is and make it local. Do not allow your counterparts to lead these things because they had a chance this entire time. So it's not about what their feelings are, their emotions. You're going to come at this with an educated mindset. You're going to come at this with some intelligence. You're going to look at the whole picture just like I laid out and I seen. And you're going to say, I can't allow people to come in and have me focused on crime more than my maternal health, more than me getting the funding I need so that if I lose a job or if one of my sisters or friends or whoever lose a job in the federal government or another high paying job, I can have a job here because, hey, maybe I need an IT person in my company. You see what I'm going with this? This is why the wealth gap is widening as well. Candidate accountability. Candidates need to be held accountable for what they're doing. They are responsible for your local government, for the things, the benefits, or whatever you're getting locally as an American. They're responsible for that. So a sanctuary city has to support you in some way, shape, or form. If you're not written in that immigration policy, then you should be like, throw it out. Throw that shit out. It don't benefit us as Americans, right? They'll just say it does, but they got to show you how. But they're banking on you going to school, spending all that time in school, taking out a student loan, and still to be dumb. Stop playing with yourself. Stop belittling yourself. Stop demeaning yourself and your educational effort because you disciplined yourself to go and obtain it. Resource auditing. There is not enough audits going on. This is why your jobs are getting lost in your local communities. This is why your political power is lost. Why your schools are getting renamed now to Hispanic names. Are you out of your mind? And this is not California. I don't care how much any of those southern state blacks, East Coast black, I don't care what they got to say. We are all in the same predicament. I don't care how they want to be like it ain't happened here. We got no, you're not. You're not getting money there. You're not, because it's still showing generally what is really going on. We got to be real. These need to be black women led political strategies, economics. It has to be. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not to destroy you who are still interested in the counterparts as far as your relationship status. This is not about relationships here. This is not about relationships. We way past that right now. Nothing I mentioned had anything to do with a relationship. It's all about advancement, political power, resources. Your counterparts should have understood this to explain it to you if that's what they wanted to lead in. These are the areas you would want them to be understanding of and put together strategies with you. But we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to be leading it, right? In closing, America first means black women first. Now again, this is specific to black women to understand how our voting habits have affected us through policies that destroyed our advancement. You're doing a lot on your own, black women. Aren't you stressed out? Aren't you tired? Don't you need some help? Don't you need somebody to listen to you? Don't you want to be vulnerable? Hmm? Aren't you tired of having to be hardcore all the time? Aren't you? Because your soft life is not only about you putting on makeup and getting the man. Your soft life also is tied to your policy. You can't be like, oh, I don't vote because of religion, or I don't vote because things go with how they go. Well, they don't, because why would someone try to attack other people if it wasn't about votes? Why would they try to go out and burn or throw out voting ballots if it wasn't about votes? It is. It obviously is. And it seems like one party has taken advantage, which people were trying to tell you. Unfortunately, they don't know how to articulate it correctly, but they should have told you and laid it out for you what's going on so you can make a better informed decision on your voting. Since 2008, we were told to be patient while banks were saved, to be compassionate while budgets shifted, and to be resilient while relief missed us. No more, black women. America First policy that ignores black women is not America First, and that's just on, period. It's theater because they're banking on you to be dumb enough, emotional enough to not stand up for yourself politically. Our doctrine is simple: survivor first safety, permanent HBCU finance, maternal health first, immigration with labor integrity, and capital access that actually closes the gap. Vote the receipts, fund our pipeline, and make both parties compete for our interest publicly in writing with numbers. Now, I have a pact that I'm working on, a site. Now, I put urban America because, again, I wanted to focus um, on just the urban culture of America. But it is to take our efforts as Black women, political strategies, power, advancement, we have to take seriously from here on out. We have to pass that down. That's why previous videos I focused on careers, investing, entrepreneurship. We still got to focus on those things because that's how we get out there and compete. That's how we stop this whole job unemployment shit. That's how you stop depending so that you really can be independent. Because that's what we wanted, right? We wanted an independence while being dependent on the greater American society, like every other community. The Asians are independent but dependent on the American society. And how they become dependent? Because it's called political power, policy. If we continue to allow people to make way for immigrants over us, Black women, you're continuing to bow down, continuing to make crime the main issue of the Black community when all of us don't experience crime like that, Black women. Some of us, we go to school, we take our time, we push out there. This is why, even in the previous one, I wanted to talk about mothers, the home environment, focusing on why we can be angry, the depression, PTSD, why you need a better job and getting out of certain environments so you can help yourself mentally and you can vote better, move better. So I just want to say thank you everyone for taking the time to come to my channel today. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will post this presentation in the description box for you. But thank you again and have a good day.